Hello everyone and welcome to our latest maths lesson, the first one of term 4, where we will be looking at adding fractions within 1. So when we're adding our fractions, they won't go above 1. So to start with, we have a couple of warm-up questions to practice our division that we worked on last term. So the first question is 4,637 divided by 6. The second one is 8,436 divided by 9. So pause the video and have a go at those questions, and then I'll share the answers with you. Right, let's have a look at those answers to those two questions. So for number 1, you should have got 772 remainder 5, and for number 2, you should have got 927 remainder 3. Okay, so before we go through these questions, just a reminder, word of the day here is denominator. So when we're adding our fractions, we need to make sure our denominator is the same. So we're saying this side is the same as this side. This side's the same as that, that's the same as that, but you need to make the denominators the same. So pause the video and have a go at those three questions. This one here is for question 3, it's just moved up a little bit. Okay, so you should have paused the video and had a go at those questions. So if we look at number 1, we've got 3/10 plus something fifths equals 7/10. Add 2/10. We know when we're adding fractions that the denominator stays the same if we're adding it, and we can add it because those denominators are both 10. So we do that first before we work out what's on this side. So 7 plus 2 is 9/10. So to work out what this is in fifths, we need to think about it in tenths first. So we've got 3/10 add something tenths equals 9/10. So we know that 3/10, 3 add 6 is 9. And to get from from tenths to fifths, what do you do to 10 to get to 5? You divide it by 2. So if you divide the bottom by 2, you have to divide the top by 2. So 3/10 plus 3/5 is the same as 7/10 and 2/10. So once you've made those denominators the same, you can work your way backwards. This one has only got one calculation in it, so we've got 8/24 is the same as how many sixths. So think, how do you get from 24ths to sixths? So you divide 24 by 4 to get to 6, because 6 multiplied by 4 is 24. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 8/24 is the same as 2/6. Same idea down here, so we want the denominators to be the same. Sorry, we need to think about changing the denominator. So ninths into what? We don't know that, but we can look at the numerator. So what do you do to 6 to get to 2? You divide 6 by 3 to get to 2, because 6 times... I'm going to start again on this one because I've got myself a little bit twisted and confused in my explanation. So 6/9 equals 2 watts. Can't change the denominator because you don't know what it is yet, so we're going to look at our numerator instead. So how do you make your 6 equal 2? If you divide 6 by 3, that equals 2, so we have to divide whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, so 2/3 is the same as 6/9. Okay, so we're looking at adding fractions within 1. So we're looking at different ways, just so we can understand a bit better how we're converting from thirds to 6. So here we have 1/3 and 1/6. So tell yourself if you can add that fraction yet. Because you can't add that fraction yet because the denominators are not the same. So what can we do with our thirds to make them into sixths so that we can add them? Okay, so if we change our thirds into sixths, so if we're doing it visually, we've just divided our thirds by 2, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into sixths, and that shows us that 1/3 is the same as 2/6. We can also do that by saying, how do you get from 3 to 6? We know that 3 times 2 is 6. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. 1 times 2 is 6. So now we've got 1/3 plus 1/6 is the same as saying 2/6 plus 1/6, which is 3/6. And you might have noticed that 3/6 is the same as a half, because half of that whole is shaded in. You can also say that 3 is half of 6, therefore this fraction is equivalent or the same value as a half. Okay, next question. Can you add it yet? You cannot add it yet because the denominators are not the same. So here we have our 3/3 plus 1/12, and you might be able to work out just by looking at those how many twelfths each quarter is worth. So we have a 12th here, and you can see that that lines up with 3/12. So if we divide this bit to twelfths, we'll see that our 3/4 is the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 twelfths. So we're doing 9 twelfths, add 1/12, which is 10 twelfths. Let's just look at it the other way using the numbers, because you might prefer that. So we think, how do we get from 4 to 12? Because you need to make the denominators the same before you add them. 4 multiplied by 3 is 12. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 3 times 4. What have I done wrong? Okay, so you should have spotted there. Whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. I did 3 times 4, but in actual fact, on the bottom, I've done 3 times 3. So I have to do 4 times 3. I've timed it by 3 on the bottom, so I have to times it by 3 at the top. 3 times 3 is 9. So as you can see, 9 twelfths at 1/12 up here, 9 twelfths at 1/12 down there. Okay, so 10 twelfths. 10 twelfths, if we're trying to get into the smallest possible fraction, you can divide the top and the bottom by 2. 10 twelfths equals 5/6. Okay, so we've got more of a word problem now, but the same rules apply. You need to make sure the denominators are the same before you add them. Now remember, when you add them, the denominators don't change, they stay the same. So Annie runs 7/20ths of a route. Ron runs 2/5ths of the same route. Maybe you're looking at those fractions already and thinking how you can make those denominators the same. So let's have a look at the question. How much of the route do they run all together? So we can see from that word all together, we're going to be doing an addition sum. So all together means putting them all together. And we've got 7/12ths, and we're going to put that together with 2/5ths. However, we know that the denominators currently aren't the same, so we're going to have to change them. So how can we change those fifths to equal 20ths? 7/20ths plus 2/5ths. How can we change those fifths? Right, so if we multiply 5 by 4, we're going to get 20 as our denominator. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 2 times 4 is 8/20ths. So we're going to end up with 7/20ths at 8/20ths. Remember, the denominators are the same when you're adding. They don't change, so we're going to end up with 20ths. We just add the top. So 7 at 8, which is 15/20ths. Okay, the adding is done. So now we're just trying to get that fraction as small as we can, which is called simplifying it. So what's the biggest number you can divide both of those numbers by? What's the biggest times table? They're both in. They're both in the ones. So if you divide it by 1, they'll be the same. That's in the 2s. That's not in the 2s. That's in the 3s. That's not in the 3s. That's in the 4s. That's not in the 4s. That's in the 5s. That's in the 5s. So I know that because there's a 5 in the 1s and a 0 in the 1s. It means they're both in the 5 times table. So what I can do is divide the top and the bottom by 5. Work out that is equivalent to 3/4. So we've added the fraction and then we've simplified it. Okay, so this is a good time to pause and have a go at questions 1 to 3 on the worksheet. If not, you can continue listening to the video and do it at the end. Okay, so here we have something thirds, add something ninths equals 7/9. We need to put those into ninths to start with. So we could have 5/9 plus 2/9 equals 7/9. Does that work though? Does that work? Because remember, we have to convert this back into thirds. What do you do with 9 to make it equal 3? You divide it by 3. Can you divide 5 by 3? No, you cannot. Okay, so we have to divide this number by 3 because we have to divide 9 by 3. So whatever's in here has to be in the 3 times table. So what numbers could we have in there? We could have 9, but then we've got 9 add something equals 7, so it can't be 9. So what other numbers could we possibly have? We could have 3 or 6. So if we had 3 ninths, we would have to add 4 ninths, so it'd be 7 ninths altogether. If we had 6 ninths, we'd have 1 ninth. So if this 3 ninths would be equal to 1/3 plus 4 ninths, which equals 7 ninths. We had 6 ninths. 6 divided by 3 is 2, so 2/3 and 1 ninth. So there's different options there for completing this calculation. Okay, so this is an addition pyramid, so we're going to look at the numbers, normal integers to start with, and then think about how we might do it with fractions. So here we have 3 and 5. Remember, you add the two bottom numbers to equal the central one, so 3 plus 5 is 8. Here we need to look at fractions now. It's the same idea. These two add to give that, these two add to give that, and then we'll get the total at the top by adding that one and that one. What do we know about adding fractions? We know the denominators need to be the same to add them. To make it easier, we can make these 3 denominators the same. So we could change our 5 so it equals 20 and our 10 so it equals 20. So have a little pause. How can you change that into 20ths? How can you change that into 20ths? Okay, so I've done this one because I know that 5 times 4 is 20. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 1 times 4 is 4. This one we've done 10 times 2 is 20. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. So now we've got 4 20ths for this box. Add 6 20ths for that box. It's 10 20ths. And now we've got 6 20ths in this one plus 3 20ths. Let's see what that equals. 9 20ths. And we have to add those two to get the top one. So 10 20ths add 9 20ths equals 19 20ths. So this is just showing you here, so we can convert this, we can simplify it, make it the smallest possible fraction. The biggest times table they're both in is a 10 times table. So if you divide the top and the bottom by the same, 10 divided by 10 is 1, 2 divided by 10 is 20, so that's the same as a half. Okay, your activity has been assigned to you on Teams, and all the worksheets for this week have been put on Tapestry, so whatever method you find easiest. I know some of you find it easiest to print straight from Tapestry. Whichever one suits you best, go for that. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing how you get on with those.